credit spreads have surprisingly been muted given the severity of the inversions. Can you just comment on that for a sec?
Sure. Credit spreads are kind of tagged along with the stock market. I mean, if stocks are doing well, which they are, I mean, we've had a rally, January rally. There's no, you say you can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own data. The stocks have had a pretty good month. Well, corporate bonds, which are how you do credit spreads, would tag along with that. The stocks are doing better, and companies can, refinance and borrow, et cetera. Then there's no reason why corporate bonds shouldn't rally. So I would think the spreads would come in, but it's vulnerable to the same reversal, which I'll describe in a minute about stocks.
Okay, I guess my question is would you expect credit spreads to start blowing out when things that'll be a key signal that okay, it's starting to get real here?
Yes, yeah, okay. In two ways. Number one, the whatever your baseline is, probably treasuries, 2-year notes or 5-year notes or whatever, they will come down a lot. Not right away. We may still be a month or two away on this, but they'll come down a lot, and then corporate yields will go up a lot because of the recession, because of deterioration, increased bankruptcies, reduced revenues, et cetera. And so those spreads will blow out. And it's important to remember, back to my entry-level credit training at Citibank in the late 1970s, but they actually made us learn stuff. The interest rates are a lagging indicator. Everyone's like, well, how could interest rates be going up if we're in a recession? The answer is, as you get closer to recession, who figures it out first? Well, the Fed figures it out last. They're usually the last to know. Wall Street is second last to know. The people who figure it out first are actual business people, entrepreneurs, restaurant owners, dry cleaners, taxi drivers, or even medium-sized businesses. They see it. If you're in the trucking business, it's real time. If inventories are sky high and new orders are being slashed, you're not moving anything by truck. So there are certain businesses that are concurrent. So it's kind of the yield curves I was talking about are very good forward indicators. They tell you what's going to happen next. A lot of business people are living in the real world in real time. They know what's happening now, and the stock market tends to figure it out later. But as far as banking and credit is concerned, what happens is if you're a business person and you see business heading down, fewer customers, whatever, you go out and borrow all you can. You're like, hey, there's a really bad recession coming. If I got lines of credit, I'm going to use them up now. I don't want my bank changing the terms. I don't want material adverse adverse change clauses kicking in. Instead, I'm going to borrow everything I can. And that creates a demand for funds, and interest rates go up. And then the recession hits and the bankers go, what's going on? Credit losses start going up. And then they just turn off the spigots and they raise standards. They stop doing loans. And then interest rates will start to come down. But interest rates peak after the recession has already begun. So interest rates may not have peaked yet. I mean, even the treasury market. So that's not unusual. So stock market's telling us Goldilocks, bond market's telling us, here comes, Hurricane Mitch or whatever. And then there's what I call the reality. And I guess I'm the storyteller here, but what I see is a kind of a hybrid. The Fed's doing what they're doing, right or wrong. Okay, they're doing what they're doing. The market has their own interpretation. I agree with the market, certainly the bond market, that the Fed has probably over-tightened. They probably are at the so-called terminal rate. They just don't know it. They're going to keep going for the reasons I explained. That means they're going to make it worse. They're going to make the recession even worse. And they may pivot to say that there could be a rate cut. It won't be in April, but rate cut in August, maybe. I wouldn't rule that out, but for a really bad reason. In other words, if the Fed cuts rates, which they may, the pivot may be real. It's not because they engineered a soft landing and Goldilocks and everything. Oh, that's just right. It's because they screwed up as usual, as they've been doing since 1913. They over-tightened. They didn't look at the forward indicators I described. and they found out too late, and then they have to slam on the brakes or take the foot off the brake, if you will, in terms of rate hikes, and then pivot. And we've seen this movie before. This is exactly what happened in 2018. I mean, I don't know. Attention spans seem to be short these days, but it wasn't that long ago. Go back and look at a chart, any stock index chart from October 1st, 2018 to December 24th, 2018. Less than 3 months. The stock market dropped 20%. I mean, it's like 19.9 or something on the Dow, so maybe not technically a bear market, but yeah, what's the difference? It dropped 20%, culminating in the Christmas Eve massacre, December 24th, 2018, when it dropped. I think NASDAQ dropped like 3% in one day. Now, here's the point. The Fed was tightening into that collapse. The Fed tightened on December 16th, 2018, only like 8 days before the Christmas Eve massacre. And after most of the 20% collapse had already happened, they tightened one last time. So what it shows you is that when the Fed's on a mission, they actually don't care about the stock market, this whole, Bernanke put and Greenspan put and all that. That's not how it works. They don't care that much about the stock market level. Here's what they do care about. They care about disorderly markets. And that's the key word. It's not, if stocks are going down, but it's, kind of a little, 0.5% a day, 1% a day, trending down, lower highs, lower lows, trending down. The Fed doesn't care about that. They're not going to bail out the stock market. They do care if it's disorderly. When was it disorderly? Well, March 2020, at the worst part of the pandemic, it dropped like 30% in like 2 or 3 weeks. The fall of 2008, I mean, it was like somebody opened a trap door. The Fed does care about that because that kind of disorderly behavior can feed on itself and end up in a 1929 type scenario. So the Fed will get the memo, as I put it, stop raising rates and begin cuts when the markets are disorderly, but not just because they're going down. So right now they're going down, but well, I mean, we had a recent rally, but this is the third one. We had a rally in July and early August. We had another rally in October, but they both corrected. The August rally corrected in September. The October rally corrected in November and December. And this January rally is going to correct also, maybe hard, but the Fed, again, that's not enough to get the Fed to act, but a so-called disorderly crash will. But that may happen. In fact, I expect it will, but we're not there yet. So there may be a pivot, in late August, or July thereabouts, but not because of Goldilocks, but because it's not a soft landing, it's a crash landing. And so I agree with the market that we're going to get a pivot, but I completely disagree. In my fairy tale, Little Red Riding Hood gets eaten by the wolf.